Welcome to the Cayman's Island podcast, where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, David Cayman, and in today's show, we're going to talk about some of the comments that were made during the owners' meeting. And since we're on the island, you know we got to keep it real. Let's get it. Now, just to summarize the overall temperature, the overall summary, I guess you could say, for the owners' meeting is that if you're a 49ers fan, guys, you really need to temper your expectations for the 2025 season. Some of the comments I want to highlight that Jed York specifically made was his commitment to leadership, right? He basically said unequivocally, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch would be at the helm of the leadership for the team, making the draft, player personnel decisions as they've done since they've been together, right? Another thing that he mentioned was talking about the potential sale of a majority stake, possibly up to 10% of the team. One of the things that I appreciate is the fact that he was kind of put on the spot and asked, hey, Jed, some folks feel like you're being cheap. Right. And, I like the way he responded. He basically said, I've been called worse things than cheap in the past. He also talked about the fact that the organization feels that Brock Purdy, in his circumstance, is a top 10 quarterback, which echoes what we thought all along, guys, that when you delve out a contract that's going to be the biggest contract ever given out in franchise history to one player, cuts have to happen, right? Negotiations of other players have to get tighter. You look at some of the things that John Lynch mentioned specifically about Brock Purdy's contract extension, and he expressed optimism about securing that extension, even if it doesn't come in this offseason. They definitely want Brock Purdy to be around long term. I really feel like all of that is code for they're going to try to get something done and get something done soon. I thought it was interesting that John Lynch, instilled confidence in the offensive line. To me, when I went back and I reviewed some of the games during the season, some of the film of different plays, to me, there were games where they were very hot and cold, some games where they were very, very up and down. So I thought it was kind of a surprise that John feels that the offensive line is in a good space. Maybe they feel like with some of the acquisitions they made and having a completely healthy line, that the totality of that line healthy is something that they feel good about. And maybe that's the case. But I still feel like we really need to try and look at adding some players in the trenches on that O-line, also on that D-line. One of the things that Kyle Shanahan mentioned that I wanted to highlight was the fact that Shanahan expressed hope that Brock Purdy would participate in the offseason program despite these ongoing contract negotiations. I think that's kind of a red flag about some of the things that just happened last season. If you just put the 2024 season in review, that's about the worst offseason you can have. Several players, wanting more money, veteran players wanting more money, the contentious contract negotiations that happened between Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers, the tragedy with Ricky Pearsall, the tragedy that happened with Trent Williams, the tragedy that happened with Travarius Ward. The list goes on and on. You couple that with all the injuries, you might as well say the 2024 season for the 49ers, just was not it. Now, with that said, what can we feel optimistic about? What can we feel hopeful for in the upcoming season? And I think it's all centered around the draft. I think we have to look at where the Niners ended up finishing, where they're picking, perhaps they can trade down, trade back, pick up some more players in the trenches, and have all these picks and really put some bodies out there on the field that can produce. I feel like if you look at everything that was mentioned during the owners' meeting, everybody's putting their hand in the draft basket. If I'm the 49ers, I really try to trade back, stockpile picks. We've not been historically great under the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regime in drafting in the first round. Let's go ahead and trade back, stockpile picks, fill these gaps, because in all sincerity, 49ers fans, we've got to get 5 starters. We have to get 5 solid starters out of this draft class if we plan on even competing for this division. You look at the Rams, on paper, they've definitely gotten better. Their young team is only going to get better with more of that being together another whole season. You look at the Seahawks. While I'm not a super Sam Darnold guy, the pieces that they've put together, I mean, they're not going to be an easy win. And we're talking about a Seahawks team that we won one, lost one against last year. The Rams beat us twice. I mean, you might as well say the Rams ended our season. And Matthew Stafford's not going anywhere. So you look at what the Cardinals did to us the last game of the season. I mean, that stings as well. So, again, Niners fans, you just got to look yourself in the mirror. Listen to what Jed York said. Listen to some of the comments that Kyle Shanahan made, about free agency, essentially saying, things like, we felt like we had to get another blocking tight end. We feel we had to get some depth at special teams, some depth in these other positions. Kyle's essentially admitting that free agency was on a budget this year. So we're definitely going to have to put all of our eggs in the draft basket. Hopefully everyone can get back, get healthy, and take a step forward in the right direction. And that's what we're going to have to hope for in the 2025 season. Tell me what your thoughts about the ownership meeting. Let me know how you feel in the comments. If you like what you saw today, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Take care. Be blessed.